An expedition that ended in mysterious disappearance. 3 men ventured deep into the Amazon and were never seen again. In 1925, British explorer Percy Fawcett, his son Jack, and Jack's friend Raleigh set out into the heart of the Brazilian jungle. Their goal: to find the lost city of Z, a legendary place Fawcett believed once held a forgotten civilization, older than any known to mankind. He dreamed of proving that deep within the wilds of the Amazon, there existed a city of stone and knowledge, proof that the jungle hid more than danger. People called him obsessed. Some called him mad. But he was certain, there is something out there, and I will find it. After leaving their final camp, the expedition vanished without a trace. No bodies, no equipment, just silence. Dozens of search parties followed. Many never returned. The Amazon does not forgive those who go too far. A century has passed, yet one question remains. What happened to Percy Fawcett? And did the lost city of Z ever exist? The story did not begin in the jungle, but in the archives. Amid stacks of yellowed maps, faded Spanish manuscripts, and chronicles of conquistadors, Percy Fawcett discovered a document that changed everything he believed about the world. It described an ancient city hidden deep within the Amazon, its walls said to be made of stone that shimmered like silver, its streets so straight they seemed carved by a blade. For most, it was just another colonial myth, the fevered imagination of soldiers lost beneath the tropical sun. But for Fawcett, it was proof. Proof that the history of South America was far older and more complex than Europeans had ever imagined. He was not a dreamer in the romantic sense. As a trained cartographer and army surveyor, he believed in order, in measurement, in the precision of lines. Yet it was this very precision that drove him toward the edge of the known world, to the places where maps ended and mystery began. The thought that ancient civilizations could once have thrived in the Amazon consumed him. He imagined the ruins standing in the heart of the forest, swallowed by vines and silence, where sunlight barely reached the ground. He gave it a name, Z. To Fawcett, this city became more than a destination. It became a symbol of discovery, of endurance, of the human need to seek the unknown. Finding it would mean proving that the world, even in the 20th century, was not yet fully conquered. Night after night, he studied maps, recalculated coordinates, examined every witness account he could find. Each new clue strengthened his conviction. The legend was real, and if anyone could find it, it would be him. Thus began an idea that would become his destiny, an expedition meant to rewrite history and take everything from him in return. Percy Fawcett was born in 1867 in England, into a family where adventure was not a pastime, but a legacy. His father was a member of the Royal Geographical Society. His brother, a writer fascinated by faraway worlds. From childhood, Fawcett grew up surrounded by maps, stories of exploration, and the scent of old maritime journals. But he was never just a dreamer. In his youth, Fawcett joined the Royal Artillery, where he learned endurance, discipline, and how to survive in places where most men broke. His service took him to North Africa, to Ceylon, and across lands where the sun scorched the earth and death often accompanied each step. It was there he learned that fear is not an enemy. It is an instinct to master. His calm in danger unsettled others, yet for him it was simply how one should face the unknown. He did not seek danger for its own sake. He sought the edge, and every time he found it, he stepped beyond it. In 1906, Fawcett received an invitation from the Royal Geographical Society to take part in mapping the uncharted Amazon basin. He was tasked with defining the borders between Bolivia and Brazil, a region where each mile could become a trap. It was there that the jungle tested him for the first time. The insects, the poisonous plants, the suffocating heat, and the tropical fevers that decimated entire expeditions. None of it stopped Fawcett. He moved forward with the same quiet determination he had carried from the military. When confronted by native tribes, he chose respect over violence, and often it saved his life. His steadiness, his ability to stay calm when others panicked, earned him a reputation. He returned from places where no one else survived. They began to call him the man who knew no fear, but deep inside, Fawcett knew the truth. Fear never disappears. It simply learns to walk beside you, and in the darkness, becomes your compass. He did not yet know that this compass would lead him to his greatest and most perilous journey, to the very place where the map ends and legend begins. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next expeditions. Your support will help me reach the first 100 subscribers. Thank you for being part of the journey. In the spring of 1925, Percy Fawcett was nearly 60 years old, an age when most men sought rest, not challenge. But for him, rest meant only one thing: the end. After years of grueling expeditions marked by fever, exhaustion, and near-death experiences, Fawcett had returned to England in body only. His mind remained in the jungle, among the endless green shadows where, he believed, the truth still waited to be found. In London, he lectured at the Royal Geographical Society, displaying hand-drawn maps and fragments from his field journals. He spoke of a hidden city, of ancient civilizations lost to time. But to most of his audience, it all sounded too wild, too impossible. Scientists doubted him, reporters mocked him, friends told him to stop. Fawcett did not argue. He simply prepared. He sold much of what he owned to finance one last expedition. This time, it would be small and final. Only 3 men would go: Percy, his 20-year-old son Jack, and Raleigh Rimmel, Jack's close friend. 3 men, 3 packs, a few rifles, notebooks, maps, and a compass. No massive caravans, no hired porters, only conviction, endurance, and Fawcett's unshakable belief in his mission. The plan was simple, yet perilous. Travel to Brazil, follow the Xingu River, then head deeper into the unexplored lands, to the coordinates where, according to Fawcett's calculations, lay the lost city of Z. Before leaving, he wrote a letter to his wife. There was no fear in it, only calm certainty. If he did not return, he wrote, it would mean that he had found what he was searching for. On April 5th, 1925, the expedition departed from Cuiabá. 3 figures vanished into the endless green. No one knew that they were walking into the heart of a mystery and would never come back. The Amazon does not welcome guests. It has no patience for haste and no mercy for mistakes. As Percy Fawcett's expedition pressed deeper into the forest, the air grew heavier, the world smaller. Around them stood a wall of green, wet, endless, alive. Even the sun disappeared beneath the canopy, turning the days into a perpetual twilight. Every step came at a price. Insects swarmed in clouds, their bites bringing fever. Boots rotted from the moisture, clothes clung to the skin, and water was everywhere. In the ground, in the air, in their lungs. Fawcett kept precise notes: temperature, direction, coordinates, the habits of animals and birds, every line written with the discipline of a soldier's report. But between the lines, fatigue was beginning to show. Days stretched into weeks. Food spoiled quickly. Rations dwindled. They drank boiled, murky water steeped with leaves and slept on the soaked earth. When the body faltered, Fawcett simply looked ahead. His calm, unwavering stare gave the others strength. Gradually, they reached lands untouched by even the native tribes. Step by step, the map ceased to mean anything. Only the compass and instinct guided their path. And Fawcett believed, the harder the journey became, the closer they were to the truth. The jungle offered everything nature could, and everything that could destroy a man. Giant snakes slid through the branches. The silence was broken only by the cry of monkeys or the distant rumble of thunder. Sometimes they heard drums, tribes watching from the shadows, unseen. But their greatest enemy came from within: exhaustion. The heat, the hunger, the endless vigilance blurred the line between waking and delirium. Yet Fawcett never stopped. He moved forward as if following a call, a voice deep within the jungle whispering to him through the trees. He knew that behind every step could lie death, but perhaps, just as close, the discovery he had chased his entire life. On May 29, 1925, Percy Fawcett made an entry in his journal. The paper was damp, the ink blurred, but he wrote carefully, as if every word were meant to last forever. It was his final letter home. He reported that the expedition was in good health, that all 3 men were moving steadily forward. He wrote that the local tribes were peaceful and that they believed the city they sought was close at hand. Between the lines, a restrained excitement could be felt, the quiet confidence of a man who finally sensed the end of his search. Yet fatigue also lingered in his words, deep and silent. His sentences grew shorter, sharper, more deliberate. He told his wife that the hardest part of the journey still lay ahead, and that if this letter were to be his last, she should know he went willingly, without fear. The letter was sent back with local guides returning downriver. No further messages ever came. That same evening, the expedition made camp beside a small stream. Fawcett sat by the fire for a long time, studying maps that had already lost their meaning. The jungle around them was still, broken only by the hum of insects and the distant cries of unseen birds. He knew that beyond this place began the land where even the tribes dared not travel. The next morning, the 3 men continued onward, their figures fading between the trees. It was the last time anyone ever saw them. Months later, the letter reached England. It was read before the Royal Geographical Society and later reprinted in newspapers. To some, it sounded like the prelude to a great discovery. To others, a farewell. It was the voice of a man walking willingly into the unknown, not for glory or recognition, but because searching had become the only way he knew how to live. Months passed, and England was still waiting for news. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but there were no letters from Percy Fawcett. At first, it seemed normal. In the jungle, time was not measured by calendars. But as the silence stretched on, it grew heavier, more absolute. Newspapers filled with headlines. Has Fawcett found the lost city? The hero who never returned. The expedition that vanished in the green inferno. His wife refused to believe the worst. She was certain he was alive, unable to send word. But others began to accept the truth. Something had gone terribly wrong. The Royal Geographical Society convened an emergency meeting. It was decided that search parties would be sent. Over the next few years, dozens of expeditions entered the jungle, Brazilians, Americans, even Fawcett's old comrades. Some returned, sick with fever. Others never came back at all. Those who survived brought unsettling stories. They found traces of camps, pieces of metal tools, fragments of European equipment. Some claimed to have seen skulls with light hair. Others spoke of tribes that worshipped pale-skinned gods and wore brass ornaments. But there was never a single piece of solid proof that it was Fawcett. The Amazon remained silent. It hid its secrets as carefully as it hid its roots beneath the soil. Over time, the disappearance became legend. Some said Fawcett was killed by hostile tribes. Others believed he had found his lost city and chosen to stay. A few even whispered that he had become part of what he was seeking. Years passed, and the jungle reclaimed everything: tools, bones, memories. On the map, the area was left blank, marked only as unexplored territory. For many, that was the end. For others, the beginning. Fawcett never returned, but his silence echoed louder than any discovery. The Amazon had swallowed everything: the men, their tracks, their names. And yet, the legend had only just begun. Years passed, yet the name Percy Fawcett never faded from the newspapers. His story became one of the great mysteries of the 20th century. People who had never held a compass suddenly dreamed of the jungle. To them, the Amazon was no longer a place. It was an idea, a symbol that the world still held secrets. The search continued. In the late 1920s and beyond, new expeditions followed one after another. Americans, Brazilians, Germans, even some of Fawcett's old acquaintances, all set out to find any trace of him. But the jungle replied with silence. Some of those who followed him also vanished without a trace. From time to time, a survivor would return, weakened, feverish, telling stories that bordered on hallucination. One explorer claimed to have met a tribe that showed him brass objects left by a white god. Another said he had found broken stone walls deep in the forest, the remnants of an ancient city. But there was never proof. The cycle repeated itself: enthusiasm, expedition, disappearance. By the middle of the century, the search for Fawcett had become something more than an effort to find a missing man. It was a pursuit of meaning, an attempt to prove that the world could not be fully measured or tamed. Each new explorer saw in Fawcett a reflection of himself, a man unable to accept boundaries. Some called it a curse. They said the Amazon devoured those who sought too deeply, taking back all who refused to turn away. At times, it seemed as if the jungle itself was watching, patient, silent, aware that time was always on its side. Fawcett had become more than human. He was now a ghost, leading others into the green labyrinth. His image drifted between myth and memory, between maps and dreams. And even half a century later, in London's cafes and conference halls, people still whispered his name, a reminder that not every road is meant to lead home. More than a century has passed since Percy Fawcett vanished into the jungle. His story has outlived empires, wars, and generations. It has become part of culture, the subject of books, films, and endless debates. But above all, it remains a story for those who still look at a map of the world and see not borders, but possibilities. The legend of the lost city of Z lives on. Even today, archaeologists uncover traces of ancient settlements deep in the Amazon. Remnants of walls, terraces, and clay structures, much like the ones Fawcett once described. Some believe he was right, that a forgotten civilization truly existed there. Others insist he was searching not for a city, but for an idea. Proof that humanity's greatest instinct is to go beyond what it can see. His journals are still studied, his maps still analyzed. His name stands beside Amundsen, Shackleton, and Livingstone, men who risked everything in the name of discovery. Yet there is something different about Fawcett's story. Not heroism, but quiet, fatal certainty that the journey itself matters more than the destination. Today, satellites capture every inch of the Earth, and it seems there are no mysteries left. But in the Amazon, among rivers that shift their course and trees that rise faster than maps can record, there are still places where no one has ever walked. And every explorer who ventures there remembers his name. Fawcett became more than a man. He became a reminder that curiosity has a cost, and not every discovery is meant to bring you home. The Amazon kept his secret, and perhaps that is where its beauty lies, because some stories were never meant to end.